Let's get right back to it. Trending today, Donald Trump released a list of potential Supreme Court nominees that he says he would choose from if he's elected president. This was done to show the former Cruz supporters and conservative never-Trumpers that he would choose a good replacement for Justice Scalia that would make the Republican base happy. But how effective will that be? Here to discuss, political strategist joining us from Washington, D.C., Gianno Caldwell. Gianno, welcome to American Trends.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Now, you were already on the Trump train, right?
Yes, I am a Trump supporter. I'm a Republican, so I'm going to be with the nominee, whomever that would be, and it's Donald Trump at this point.
So do you think that his idea of releasing this list of potential Supreme Court nominees was a good one for right now? Because obviously when you release a list of nominees, you're going to get a lot of criticism. And one of the criticisms I've already had myself and I've heard from others is, hey, I know some of these people, and some of these people were never Trumpers. That's not okay with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it is a great idea for a couple of reasons. One in which he needed conservatives to know that he is a true conservative. He's a principled conservative, and a number of the individuals on the list, I mean, pretty much all of them are real conservatives, and they've been praised by members in the conservative community. Chuck Grassley was one who praised the list. There's a judge on the list that lives in Iowa. There's been a number of others that have said things like that. And I think that we're going to continue to see the growing trend of support for this list.
Do you think that this list, are you hearing from people in your circles, Gianno, that this list with so many conservatives on it is going to make a difference, though? Is it going to bring people over?
I think it will. I mean, this was a very unconventional process. I worked for Mitt Romney's campaign in 2012, and we didn't do anything like this. Obviously, there wasn't much of an opportunity. We didn't need to because Republicans coalesced around our candidacy. I think there's going to be some folks that remain on the never Trump train no matter what Donald Trump does. They just don't support him, and they see no reason to support him regardless. But I think this was a very impactful move by Donald Trump. I think it was a very strategic move, and I think it's one that will pay dividends in the future because we need to know what are the decisions Donald Trump is going to make moving forward, especially considering the fact that Donald Trump's candidacy has been very unconventional, not mainstream Republican politics or rhetoric for the most part. So we needed to see this.
Okay, one name glaringly missing. I don't have to say it for you, but many conservatives said, hey, you know, if Donald Trump would just say, Ted Cruz will be my next Supreme Court nominee, then all the never-Trumpers, what would they do? They'd have to jump on board with Donald Trump. That didn't happen. I want to ask you first, why do you think that didn't happen?
I don't think it happened because it would have been, one reason, a very bad PR move for Donald Trump, because there's no way that Ted Cruz, a guy who, after he conceded to losing to Donald Trump on the night that he dropped out of the race, the next day you go to tedcruz.com, what was it? It was a picture of Hillary Clinton saying, "Your next president," Hillary Rodham Clinton, a very flattering picture of her, I might add. And he's definitely not over those hurt feelings at this particular point. So he would have said absolutely not Donald Trump, and he might have even said that Hillary Clinton was going to be the president. So you don't want to take that level of attention on something that you're rolling out and give Ted Cruz the spotlight to bash you. So I'm glad that he didn't, and it made sense that he did not have Ted Cruz on that list because Ted Cruz is not ready to coalesce yet.
Fascinating. So do you think it would have been worth Mr. Trump's while to perhaps wait till there was just a little bit more time and maybe instead of releasing a list of his Supreme Court options, to maybe list some of the people he might consider for VP? We know that list exists, but he has not released it formally, at least.
Well, for that particular list, I think it makes sense to mention some of those names. Well, you've seen some of those names being mentioned by Dr. Ben Carson and others, but closer to the convention. At this point, it is absolutely imperative for Republicans, conservative, Tea Parties to all unite and coalesce around our presumptive nominee, which is Donald J. Trump. We have to be united, and it made sense for him to present what would be good options when it came to Supreme Court picks, especially considering the fact that some of the never Trump individuals have said, hey, he would disturb the balance of the court and move it to the left. So this was his way of breaking that idea from the election cycle, or rather the news cycle.
Do you think there was an overriding message here from Mr. Trump? Because one of the major reasons I heard people say they were never going to get on board with Trump initially is because he mentioned his sister as a possible Supreme Court nominee. She obviously was not on that list. All of the people that he did mention are pro-life. All of the people that he did mention are pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment. Was it more about the message there, and maybe the person he's already decided on is sprinkled within that?
I think that's what his campaign has said. He has said that he would use the list as a guide. Obviously, things can change very quickly. And I think, especially considering the fact that he had mentioned his sister would make a great Supreme Court justice a number of times, it was absolutely necessary to release a list to say, hey, this is how serious I am. And there were a number of very, very, very good conservative, well-known conservatives on that list. One may even note that a number of those folks that were on the federal appeals court were nominated by George W. Bush. Additionally, a number of those folks were nominated by Republican governors. So this is something that they definitely took time to think through. It was a very strategic list, and it's being praised by conservatives all across the country at this time. And I think that if we continue to see the trend of who Donald J. Trump would put in respective roles, I think it makes sense for Republicans all over to begin to coalesce more and more, because we see him as a true Republican, a true conservative, and someone who will guide our country in the right direction using conservative and Republican principles to foot.
Who are you betting on, Gianno?
I'm betting on, in terms of who the justice will be?
Yes.
I'm not sure at this point. I think it's very early. I think we're going to begin to see analysis that are going to be coming out very soon by publications that are going to look very closely at these particular justices. And I think that right then we're going to have a great opportunity to see how they decided on different cases and what they may be like as a Supreme Court justice, because at this time, it's a very delicate time for our Supreme Court, and we absolutely need a conservative voice on the court. Otherwise, I can see things going in the wrong direction very quickly.
Thank you so much for being with us, Gianno. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.